There's a man who died in San Francisco in October of 2023. Most of you have never heard his name. He was 92 years old when he passed. He didn't own a car. He didn't own a home. He rented an apartment. Until he was 75 years old, he only flew in coach. And he carried his reading material in a plastic bag. He wore a cheap watch. Here's what you need to know about him. He was a billionaire. Actually, he was more than a billionaire. For a while, he was one of the 25 richest people in America. I'm Mo Matthews, and the story of this man, what he did with his fortune, is going to change how you think about wealth. Stay with me to the end. I've got something for you. His name was Chuck Feeney. Chuck co-founded a company in 1960 called Duty-Free Shoppers. He and his partner built that company into a global empire. In 1996, they sold it to Louis Vuitton, one of the biggest luxury conglomerates in the world. The sale generated over $1.5 billion. And that's when Chuck Feeney's real story started. Because what Chuck did over the next 4 decades, most people alive have never heard about. Back in 1982, 14 years before he ever sold the company, Chuck created a foundation. He called it Atlantic Philanthropies. And in 1984, he did something nobody in his life knew about. He quietly transferred his entire share of Duty-Free Shoppers, at the time worth around $500 million, to that foundation. His own business partners didn't know. His family didn't know. His friends didn't know. For years, everyone thought Chuck Feeney owned hundreds of millions of dollars in DFS stock. He didn't. He had already given it all away. Over the next 4 decades, Chuck Feeney quietly gave his entire fortune away. $8 billion across 5 continents, funding education, healthcare, human rights. Across 5 continents, funding education, healthcare, human rights, peace efforts, AIDS treatment, cancer research, and here's the part that tells you everything about the kind of man he was. Most of it was given anonymously. For more than 20 years, neither his name nor his foundation's name appeared on a single building, a single professorship, a single program his money had funded. When recipients asked where the money came from, Atlantic Philanthropies made them promise not to tell. They called him the James Bond of philanthropy. His authorized biography, the book written about his life, is literally titled The Billionaire Who Wasn't. That's who Chuck Feeney was. By December of 2016, Chuck Feeney's foundation made its very last grant, $7 million, to a Cornell student program. In 2020, the foundation officially closed its doors. Mission complete. His biographer wrote this line: once one of the top 25 richest Americans, Feeney retained only $2 million for pension, medical expenses, and living purposes, including rent. Let me say that a different way so it lands. A man who once had $8 billion died with $2 million in a rented apartment in San Francisco, and he was happy. Quick thing before I tell you the rest. If this is already making you think, stay with me to the end, because I'm going to walk you through a chart that's going to force you to be really honest with yourself about how you've been living. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to get on a live call with me to talk through what you see. Now come back. Chuck Feeney is the reason Warren Buffett and Bill Gates created the Giving Pledge. That whole public movement of billionaires committing to give away their fortunes. It started because Bill Gates and Warren Buffett read about Chuck Feeney. When Feeney himself signed the pledge in 2011, he wrote, "I cannot think of a more personally rewarding and appropriate use of wealth than to give while one is living." Warren Buffett, one of the most famously frugal billionaires on earth, called Chuck Feeney his hero. Of the 22 deceased billionaires who signed the Giving Pledge, who publicly promised to give their fortunes away, only 8 actually did it. And only 1, Chuck Feeney, gave his entire fortune away. 3/4 of the Forbes 400 have given less than 5% of their lifetime fortunes. Now I have to confess something. I grew up knowing nothing about this world. My family wasn't old money. I had 0 old money role models. And for a short but embarrassing stretch of my life, I tried desperately to be new money. I wanted the big, impressive house. I wanted to broadcast my success to the world. I wanted publicity for my businesses. I was trying to be someone I wasn't, and I was miserable, stressed out. I hated the public persona I had built for myself. It took me a long time to figure out why. I was so unhappy because deep down, I'm not impressed by new money. Never have been. So why was I killing myself trying to be it? That question changed my life. And that question is the reason I'm making this video for you today. Most people think old money means the Vanderbilts, the Astors, the Rockefellers, families who've had money for 6 generations. That's not what it is. Old money is a mindset, not a bank account, and you can adopt it tomorrow. Byron Tully, in a book called The Old Money Book, described it like this. When the public thinks of wealthy people, they think of big houses and flashy jewelry. Old money response, peacock today, feather duster tomorrow. The priority for old money is independence, not display. Old money is an investor, not a consumer. Chuck Feeney didn't consume. He invested. Universities, hospitals, peace initiatives, cancer research. Cornell University alone received nearly $1 billion from him. And the Cornell president called him the university's 3rd founder, behind only Ezra Cornell himself. The Cornell president called him the university's 3rd founder. He wasn't accumulating toys. He was building something that would outlive him. I want you to do something with me right now. I've got a chart I want you to look at. 12 rows, 2 columns, new money on the left, old money on the right. And I want you to be brutally honest with yourself as I walk you through it. And I want you to be brutally honest. Row 1, the home. New money, big flashy home to impress. Old money, nice home, tucked away for comfort. Chuck Feeney rented an apartment. Row 4, social media. New money uses social media to increase social status. Pictures of vacations, selfies showing the good life, wants fame. Old money is not on social media. No good life pictures, no selfies. When they travel, nobody knows about it. Chuck Feeney gave away $8 billion and refused to put his name on a single building for over 20 years. Row 6, cars. New money drives a luxury car that shows success, leases it. Old money sees vehicles as transportation, buys quality, drives them for a decade. Chuck Feeney didn't own a car at all. Row 7, thinking. New money, short-term thinking, short-term decision-making, lives above their means. Old money, long-term thinking, long-term decision-making, lives below their means. Old money, minimal use of debt, prefers to pay cash, no second mortgage, no credit card balances. New money, actions primarily connected to consumption, takes more than they give. Old money, main focus is service, purpose, adds value. Now, here's the question. Go through all 12 rows in your head. Slowly, which column does your life live in? Not which one do you admire. Which one do you actually live in? That's the question. Pause for a second. If you just walk through that chart and you got uncomfortable, that means you've got work to do. And that's exactly who I want to talk to. I run live discovery calls, not a webinar, not a sales pitch, a real conversation about your life and whether you've been quietly running the new money play without realizing it. And right now, if you book one, you qualify for a free business and personality assessment. No charge, no catch. Here's the link, BeTeachable.com/success. That's BeTeachable.com/success. Book the call, take the assessment. Let's find out what column you've actually been living in and how to move where you want to be. Come back, because the philosophy that ran through Chuck Feeney's head is still coming. Here's Tully describing what runs through an old money mind. The philosophy of old money is to enjoy life to the fullest, to learn and grow as a person, to work hard and excel in a profession that one enjoys, to preserve and expand resources while using them well, to share a rich life with friends and family, to prepare one's children for a rewarding life, to benefit society, to leave a legacy for future generations. Look at that list. Not a single mention of luxury cars, no mansions, no wristwatches, no designer bags, no Instagram followers, no private jets, just independence, self-control, purpose, family, legacy. Tully calls it being inner-directed, seeking approval from oneself rather than others. That's what Chuck Feeney lived for 40 years. That's what was missing from me when I was miserable trying to be something I wasn't. And that right there is the whole game. Tully calls it being inner-directed, seeking approval from oneself rather than others. That's what Chuck Feeney lived for 40 years. That's what was missing from me when I was miserable trying to be something I wasn't. And that right there is the whole game. Here's my version of it. Systems over moods, clarity over charisma, assets over appearances, discretion over display, inner-directed over outer-approved, inner-directed over outer-approved. Every single person I know who's built real wealth, the kind that compounds across generations, lives some version of this philosophy. And every single person I know who's been wiped out or is headed for it is living the opposite. You can tell which path someone's on long before the money runs out. Just look at what they're trying to prove and to whom. Here's the final word. Chuck Feeney died in October of 2023. He didn't own a car. He didn't own a house. He had $2 million left out of the $8 billion he made. And he left behind a world he had literally changed. Universities rebuilt, diseases cured, peace brokered, millions of people helped, most of whom will never know his name. That is what old money actually looks like. Not the bank account, the mindset, and the legacy. The next time you're tempted to upgrade the house, lease the car, or post the vacation, I want you to remember Chuck Feeney, the billionaire who wasn't, the man who wore a cheap watch, flew coach, carried his books in a plastic bag, and gave away everything. And ask yourself one question. Which column of that chart do you want your life to be remembered in? If you need help figuring that out, go to BeTeachable.com, success right now. Book your discovery call. Claim your free business and personality assessment. And let's make sure the life you're building is actually the life you'd be proud of being remembered for. That's the work. That's tough love. Semper Fi.